Hi there people, how's it going? This is Cross the Rubicon channel. As you know, last few days I've been doing the tour with Julian Bachelor in the west coast, Westport, and then it was Richmond in Nelson, and then Riwaka, which is just north of Motueka, and we finished at Takaka last night. Now, I've left the tour from yesterday, that was already pre-arranged, and so Julian's gone up to the North Island. I think he's doing another one there tomorrow night. I think he's doing Picton today. But what I have seen is so much hatred. There's so much hatred here in New Zealand right now that I just don't think there's going to be a meeting of minds, because the damage that has been done, not by Julian, the damage has been done by this government and previous governments and the radical extremist Maori elites, who have told many lies and fabrications about the treaty over many decades, and they've angered young Maori today via their propaganda machine, unprecedented propaganda machine. And I try to talk to these people outside the events, and they're adamant they won't even talk about it. They won't even talk about it, most of them. And all you get is shouts of racist and Nazi and all the other stuff. And I think it was Richmond just the other night, at Memorial Hall, I think it was, in Richmond. That was the first sign of real viciousness and hatred, when a crowd of about maybe 50 turned up, including a Nelson City councillor called Kahu Paki Paki, a councillor, an unelected councillor apparently, a Maori ward councillor. He turned up, and there was a gang member beside him. It looked like Black Power to me, all in blue. Maybe someone can correct me on that. And they tried to break into the building, violently break in. So that was a councillor, a Nelson City councillor, Kahu Paki Paki. But that's alright, that's perfectly acceptable in New Zealand. Now, I hear cries all the time of Maori are disadvantaged, and how they have it so hard. And I say the opposite is true. Maori are much more advantaged than anybody in this country right now. And they're the front of the queue for everything now. Everything. And everybody else is being left behind. We're being pushed to the back of the queue. And it's wrong, people. It's wrong. The meeting last night was in Takaka, which is just over the hill from Motueka. And there it was really bad. Really bad. And there would have been 70, maybe 80 people there, and they were so hostile. So hostile. Many of them white, non-Maori. A few Maori, and I got assaulted twice there at the door. A young girl who broke into the meeting 2 or 3 times because we had a severe lack of security. And when she was eventually evicted by the police, she came at me outside by the door, reached into a bag and grabbed what I believe was flour and threw it right in my face. So I was covered in flour. And okay, not a big deal, but pisses you off a little bit. And she was taken away by the police. And half an hour or so later, another bloke He was very aggressive towards me earlier in my first video of the Takaka event. I don't know what his name is, but he got very aggressive. He was a white bloke, and but I think he had a Maori, wife, girlfriend, whatever, partner. And I was inside the building, and I went outside because I heard shouting outside, and this fella had broke through the cordon, and now he's right on the step. And there was a fella, I forget his name, he was about 75, he was doing security, 75 outside the door. And this big fella, he was a real big man, he was, and I can see him through the opaque door because he put his foot against the door so I couldn't get out. And so literally I was pushing on the door and I couldn't get out. I wasn't going to force it because it was glass. And I can see him pointing at the much smaller, older fella, and I thought he was going to hit him. So I wanted to get out and look after the old man, you know. Warwick, his name was, the old fella. Lovely bloke. And I seen the aggressor. He moved away from the door and took his foot away from the door where he was holding it. He was jamming it with his foot. And as I moved out, you can see it on the video, it's on the video. It's at the very end of one of the videos. I think it's about 26 minutes long, 26 minutes long, right at the very end, if you want to have a look on Facebook. And as I walked out, he launched straight at me, and punches were thrown. He grabbed my phone, and his wife jumped on me. She was scratching at me. I'll just show you now. I'm not sure you can see that there on my chest. So I had that, which is no big deal, but as he attacked me, I dropped my phone. The old fella, Warwick, got knocked to the floor, and they all piled in, and they all ran over and piled in, and I was like a punching bag basically. And the fella, the aggressor, the big bloke, we scuffled because, well, he wouldn't let go and his wife wouldn't let go of me. And I was in fear for my life, I really was, because of the amount of hate expressed by these people. And I let a couple go. And I had no choice, I was desperate to get away from these people, and I did. The police pushed me inside, and they were all shouting, assault, assault, as per usual. But this is getting much, much worse. And I think deliberately so. They want to cause this division, they want to cause this hatred, they want to cause this violence and anger to stop the debate, to stop the people of New Zealand being informed of what's really happening. Because these people outside, they are convinced, they are absolutely convinced that New Zealand would be better if it was ruled by Maori elites. It just baffles belief to me, baffles belief. And they want co-governance, 50-50 co-governance, plus Maori will have veto over the other 50%, and they will rule New Zealand by 2040. I asked the fella who assaulted me last night or yesterday afternoon, earlier, has he read the Hey Pua Pua document? And he said, no, I'm not going to read it because you're talking about it, he says. And he got right in my face. That was earlier on in the piece. He was very, very aggressive. But these people, they're not even informing themselves. They are just listening to Maori activists and people like politicians like Willie Jackson, Rawiri Waititi, Debbie Packer, and the rest, JT. And they're taking that as truth, absolute truth. And Chris Hipkins, Jacinda Ardern, she's gone now, but she stirred a lot of this up. And a long time before her, John Key as well. They've stirred up this hatred. I can't see this being resolved. I really can't, because they refuse to have the conversation. They refuse to do it. Instead, they act violently. They come to these meetings, act with great violence, to try and intimidate people into silence and to intimidate people into not coming to Julian Batchelor's events. Like I said, there was about 70 people out there last night, and mostly older people were trying to get into the venue, and they had to walk through the gauntlet, and they were shouted abuse at. This is all part of the intimidation. This is what's happening in New Zealand. But I'm telling you, I've never experienced such hatred and anger by these people. They refuse to talk about the issues. They just say to me, F off, I don't want to talk to you. You're a far-right white supremacist, well, whatever. You're a racist. That's all you get from these people. They will not engage. Because they're being used. They're Marxists as well. A lot of them weren't even married. Most of them weren't even married. And even the children that were there, young children, they're being completely indoctrinated into destroying this country, into a belief that they should be ruled by Maori. I honestly, I fear, I really, really fear for New Zealand, the path it's going down. Because, well, there is no debate, and they won't have a debate. They're not going to have Julian Batchelor debate Rawiri Waititi or Willie Jackson. That's not going to happen. All they want to do is just call him racist, and that's it. Job done for them. Just call him racist. Keep calling him racist and KKK. Job done. And that's what the media do. The media are on their side. So the media are driving this as well. Politicians, radio stations. The $55 million public interest journalism fund is funding the media to tell lies to the people of New Zealand. And these people outside these events the last few nights, they've swallowed a lot of it. Swallowed a lot of it. They can't understand, and they will not debate, they will not engage. All they've got is calling us racists, and they're the white people as well. All they've got is calling us racists. They believe the treaty was a partnership. They believe that Maori did not cede sovereignty to the Queen of England, Queen Victoria, because they're told by these revisionist historians another story. And they're not going to change. And people on my side of the fence aren't going to change either. And I believe, at some stage, when Maori do take power, they're going to come for everyone's land. Everybody who's not Maori in New Zealand, including Maori, but Maori who don't believe in what they do, what they say, they'll come for their land too, every square inch. Every square inch of land in this country. They're going to take. And remember, Maori are not indigenous to New Zealand. They came here in the 13th century. Yes, they came here before the Brits, but there is evidence that people were here before Maori, and they were genocided by Maori when Maori came here. Cannibalised, genocided. And now, via corruption of many politicians over many decades, National and Labour, including the United Nations, so you have to say the WEF too, they've given Maori the indigenous title, much like the Aborigines in Australia. But let's face it, Aborigines, they have been there for 40,000 years. Maori have been here for just a few hundred years, 700-800 years, that's it. So they're not indigenous to New Zealand, and yet this government, Maori activists at the very, very top of the pyramid, the United Nations and WEF, via the Hei Puapua document, by 2040, are going to make Maori extremists at the very top of the pyramid our overlords, our rulers in New Zealand. It's all there in the Hei Puapua document. And them people that were in that crowd last night and previous nights, not one of them have read it. Not one of them. And they refuse to read it because they think it's far right. It has come down from the United Nations. It's part of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, even though Maori are not indigenous to New Zealand. Okay, that's my video. Please like, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, share this video everywhere. If you want to see what happened last night, I will leave the links below on Facebook and you can watch. And you can see the anger, the hatred in the eyes of these people. It's like they've been stupefied. They're almost zombie-like. They are not going to be bargained with at all. There's going to be no compromise. New Zealand's going down a very, very, very dark path. Okay, see you later.